Okay, so recording has been started. Okay, so let's create one user. Okay, so add the username, let's say, um, to say, okay, so user created successfully. This is the ID of user. Okay, so let me search for this particular user from admin module. It's saying record is not there, but we have just created one employee, right? This is the employee full name. Okay. Where I can see the user ID test field. Or maybe what we'll do, we'll just change the password for, let's say, this new.
Add from the admin panel and then check, sir. Edit from admin.
Oh, right. So in admin panel, I'll just search for user. But username we don't know, right? So how to search for that specific user?
So first create
Yes,
it and
yes, we got it. All right, and I'll say role for this one is this enable, and password is equal to, let's say I'm giving the username, I'm giving, let's say, the test itself. Okay, so this is my password. Sorry, username.
username, sir.
And password I'm giving, let's say, test @ 123. Okay, and here as a test @ 123. What happened? Let's see. Okay, 123. Okay, so password is, let's see. Okay, so we are able to log in with this particular user as well, right? So what I'll do, I'll just write one script for the login. Okay, how to write the login script? I think we have already written the login script somewhere, right? So let me open that particular script.
Yes, sir. We have write login test method.
So it's in demo. Yeah, this one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is our login test method. So basically what we are doing here, I mean, just revise it. Okay, so what we are doing here, we are having at the rate before suite. Okay, so in that we are just entering the URL of application. Okay, so basically we are creating the browser object. Okay, that is a Chrome. Now we are just, launching the browser. We're saying like, timeout, that is the implicitly, and then we are maximizing the window. That's it. This is we are doing in before suite. Right. So before suite will execute only once, right? Okay.
Ajay,
After
sir,
that,
this is again old URL, so we have to update this URL also.
yeah, I'll update it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now next thing that we have added the group here. Okay. So instead of writing test again, I'm just referring the old test. Okay. Now I'm saying like, so let's say, um, I'm finding the username and I'm saying like, username is this one. Then I'm saying like, password, and I'm adding the password is this one, right? So after that, I'm just clicking on the login button. Okay. And after that, we are just checking that logo is displayed or not, right? So we are saying like, logo is displayed or not. And then we are taking the admin tab text as well, right? Okay. So, so maybe what are the user we have login for that admin is not there tab. Okay, we'll see later. Okay. But if it is the case, then I need to remove this particular assertion. Okay. But as of now, that's fine, right? So this is our complete test for the login where we are just logging to the application. And after that, we are asserting something, right? So what we are asserting, that particular logo is displayed after login. Okay. And that admin tab is displayed there or not, right? So this is our plain, login test we have written earlier, right? But if you see, I'm just hard coding the data here. Okay, so data that I am passing, that is the hard coded. Okay, and if you're writing something like this is not a good practice, right? So ideally, you should not hard code your test data inside your script itself. All right. So for that, we are going to have, test data management. Okay. So test data management could be anything, depends on your application, right? But in TestNG, we have, provision to manage your test data either through the your mm, um, um, parameterization. So there are two types of parameterization we can do. Okay, so first one is the data provider, and second one is the testng.xml. Right. So first approach, we are going to see how to manage the data. That is the data provider. Right. So data provider is one feature that is provided by TestNG. With the help of that, we can manage the data. Right. So let's try, or let's try to manage the data there. Right. So what is how to use the data provider, right? So first thing, okay. So if you want to use the data provider, you have to follow the two steps, right? So first step is, first of all, you have to create the data. First step is that you have to create the data. Okay. And second step is that you have to, so let's say here I'm creating the data. Okay. So this particular step is for the creating the data. Okay, I will explain you what exactly we are doing here. But basically we have created one class. Okay. If you're writing in same file, that is also fine. Or if I'm writing it in same class, that is also fine. But basically you have to create the data. Okay. So whenever I'm creating the data, at that time, I'm going to use the one annotation, that is the @data provider. Okay, just remember this particular name. @data provider is the annotation that you have to use when you want to store the data, or you want to maintain the data. Okay, @data provider, @data provider. Okay, so this is the one annotation that we are using, @data provider, right? And after that, I'm creating one method. Okay, I'm creating one plain method. Okay, the name of this particular method is the create data, or you can give anything, right? But this particular method should be written bi-dimensional object array. This is compulsory. Okay, so whatever the method you are creating in data provider, that particular method should return bi-directional, bi-dimensional, not directional, bi-dimensional, okay, object array, bi-dimensional object array, right? So if I'm using the uh, data provider, then compulsory I have to return this. Right. Now, if I'm returning the object array, so similar object array I'm returning here as well in my method as well. Okay, so I'll tell you how to manage it. Okay. After that, we are creating the test for which you want to use that particular data. So login test we have already created. Just for that login test, we have to tell the login test that I want to use the test data. I want to use the data provider. So in test level, you have to say data provider, and you have to give the data provider name. So here data provider name, I'm giving the test data. So similar data provider, you have to add same data provider, you have to add there. That means your script will understand that you have to take the data from this particular data provider, right? And then you have to mention where exactly data provider is available. Right. So I'm saying, like, my data provider is available in data provider example dot class. Okay. Now consider this is your login method, and what are the parameters you are required. So in our case, we require the two parameters, right? Two types of data, right? Username and password. Right. So here as well, we are going to add the two parameters. Right. So this is the procedure that we have to follow. So first of all, we'll try to create one new class. Okay. And in that, we will add the @data provider. So how to create the new class? Simple. Right. So I'll
Uh,
go here.
Ajay, hello.
Yes.
Actually, data provider required for only Excel sheet or any external file. It's okay.
No, no. Data provider, you can create the separate class, and there you can maintain the data. Data provider is not Excel sheet or something like that. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you see the process, okay, what I'm doing, I'm saying, like, right click, new class.
Yes.
Here I'm adding it into the new class, but it's not
Yes.
necessary always you have to create new class and add it. But if you are maintaining the test data in separate file,
Yes.
then that is good. Right. So what I'll do, I'll say new file, and I'll say data provider, or data provider. Okay. Data provider, or TestNG data provider. I will use TestNG, TestNG data provider. Right. So I'll just say finish. Okay, so plain one class is created here. The name of this particular class is TestNG data provider. As I told you that you have to use one annotations here. What is the annotation name? @
At the rate data provider.
data provider. Right. So @ data provider, this particular annotations I have to use. And here you have to give the name. Okay. So I'll give the name login data. Okay. So here basically I'm going to use the login data. Right. So this is the data provider. Data provider is annotations, right? So right after the annotation, we have to create one method, right? So what is the method name? So let's say I'll
Name
give an
name is this login data,
correct,
or
correct.
what is
Login
this
data.
actually? We
Sorry,
call this
its
login
name,
data
its
name.
name of the data provider. Okay,
Okay.
so I'm going to refer this particular name whenever I want to use the login um, related data. I'm going to use this particular name. I will tell you. Okay, don't worry. Okay,
Yes.
then I'm going to create one method. Okay, so let's say login test data. This is my method name, login test data. Okay, so this is plain method. So maybe I will say this is public method. Okay, okay, but see, if I'm using like this, I'm getting some error. Okay, maybe I will say void. In that case, I'm not getting error, but for the data provider, what you need to do, you need to use the bidirectional object array. All right, so what I'll do here, I'll say this is my bidirectional object array. Sorry, bidimensional object array. So I'll say object as the return type, object, object. Right. Now, if I'm saying like, I have to return the bidimensional. See, I'm saying like, return type is the bidimensional object array. All right. So I have to maintain the bidimensional object array. So if you remember how you are adding the values for the bidimensional array. So let's say int, this is my bidimensional array. How am I assigning the value for this one? Remember?
1, 2 or anything.
All right. So basically we are adding like this, right? One,
Yes.
Yeah,
Comma.
two,
two
three.
curly braces.
So this is your first
Then comma, then
row, all right? Then again curly braces.
curly
Then let's
braces.
say 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Now next third value or third row is let's say 6, 7, or 8, like this, right? So this is how we are maintaining the bidimensional array, any bidimensional array. All right. Now for this particular
Sir,
test,
in bidirectional, two values will come, na, sir,
sorry,
here.
it's not bidirectional, it's bidimensional.
Bidimensional. It's a
Yeah,
two, I mean, we can say two-dimensional array, right?
yeah, we can say the two dimension.
So two values will come here, sir. We are writing three here in
It's
braces.
depend on how what size you are giving here, right?
Yes, sir.
Correct,
1, 2, 1, 3. In
correct.
that format will come,
So
right?
I haven't given here any size, right? So it's not, I mean, it's, we can say the multi dimension. This is the multi-dimension array. So if I give like, 2, 2, that means row are 2, column are 2.
Yes, sir.
All right. So in that
Yes.
case, I have to give the value like this. Okay. Only 2 value because rows also 2 and columns also 2. Correct. In that case, I'm going to give like this. Okay. If I'm saying like, uh, let's say rows are 2, columns are 3. Right. So then I can, because see, sorry, uh, column 2, rows 3. All right. So in that case, I can give the like this. All right. One value I can increase. Suppose I'm saying like, 3, 3, then I can give the 3 values here. Correct. Right now I haven't specified anything, right? So that's the reason I was showing like this. Okay. For 3, 3, this is, we can say the 3 by 3 array.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, uh, I have to return the object from this one, right? But in our case, what we are going to use return from here, I want to return the username and password. Okay. So for that purpose, I'm going to say new object something is I'm doing wrong here. Should be like,
Return new object.
return new object
Value.
something is wrong here. Okay, so let's do it. Return new. So let's say first username and admin A capital. Okay, so this is my first data and this is my second data. Okay, so this is also string. That's a count. Okay, so basically what we are doing, we are creating one object array. Okay, this is object array, and in that we are just adding some values. All right. So as of now, I'm going to add only one value. I'll tell you how to add more values as well. Okay, but let's try it's working with the two values or not, right? So in this case, let's consider I'm going to maintain all the test data. What are the test data is required? I'm going to maintain in this particular file. Right. So for the login, it's required. For let's say address, it will require data. For let's say filling the employee details required the data, right? So all for this, I'm going to create the different test data data provider here, and I'm going to use those test data provider. So this is for the login, right? So tomorrow, let's say employee information. If I read required, I'll create the separate data provider, right? So what you can do as of now you have writing some of the test cases, right? So for those test cases previously you have hard coded the test data, right, in test as well, itself, right? So now just create one separate file. Okay, in that particular separate file you have to maintain the test data now onwards. Okay, don't hard code the any test data now. All right, so I'll go to the login test. Okay, so where is our login test? I think it's in demo. Yeah, here is the login test. All right. So now step number one is done. Okay, in step number one, I'll explain what exactly we are doing here. Okay, but step number one is done. That is the create at the one class. In that, use the @ data provider annotations. Give the name to that particular @ data annotations. I'm giving the login data. Okay, and then I'm creating one simple method. So this is the simple method which is returning the multi-dimensional array, that is the object array. Okay, so that's the reason I'm saying like, return new object. So that means one new object is created of type object array. Okay, we can say like, bidimensional object is created here. Okay, or we can say like, object is one class. We are creating the object. We are creating the object of object class. Okay, and as I said, like, it's required, two values. Sorry, it's required few values. So I'm just adding those value here so that this particular array will return. Okay, so this particular two values will be returned. Okay, to whom? So for that, you have to understand the step number two. Okay, in step number two, what we are doing, what we are saying, in step number two, create the test method. So test method we have already created. Okay, so for that particular test method, if I want to use or I want to utilize that data provider that I have created, what I need to do, I need to say uh, in test, I have to say data provider. So I'm going to use one data provider. What is the name of that particular data provider? So name of that provider, data provider is the test data. In our case, what is the name? Login data, right? So I'm going to mention here login data, right? And just after that, you have to provide the class as well. Okay, so in our case, what is the class of that for that? TestNG data provider, right? So that is my class name. So I'm going to give the class name and then login method is there. Okay. In our case, we need to fetch username and password. So I will create here two variable username and password for as a parameter for this particular method. Okay. So this particular thing we have to follow. All right. So let's go to the our Eclipse. Okay. So here, if I go here, okay, I think this one, right? Okay, so this is the test we have created. As I mentioned there, what we need to do, you need to say here, data
At the
provider. Okay, and we have to mention the name of data provider. So what is the data provider name in our case? So let's go here. And what are the name we have mentioned here? That is the name of our data provider. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll mention the name of data provider here. Okay, now see, if I'm using from the same class means this is my class demo test. If my data provider is available in same class, then I don't need, specify the in which class it is available. All right. But my data provider is in another class. So that's the reason I have to mention the class name as well, right here. So I will say data provider class, data provider class. So where is our data provider is available? So I'll say test ng data provider dot class. TestNG data provider dot class. Okay, so I'm saying like, we have one class available. Okay, we have one class available. Okay, from that particular class. Um, so for example, this is the class available, right? TestNG data provider. So my TestNG data provider or data provider, I have mentioned here in this particular file. Okay, I want to use for this particular test, I want to use one data provider. Okay, name of that particular data provider is login test data, and you can search that particular data provider in this particular file. This is something we are telling to the our script. We are mentioning in our script, right? Now, okay.
Ajay
So
sir, this class is defined as TestNG data provider in .java extension, and
which
we are
one?
giving sir data provider class equal to TestNG data provider dot
Correct,
class.
correct, correct, correct.
But it is mentioned in .java extension here in our.
Right, right. So here we are passing. Let's consider we are passing the binaries. Binary means we are just passing the dot class file. We are not saying direct refer. Whatever the compiled file of this particular class, refer that one. We are saying okay.
If we give .java extension, it will not work, right?
It will not work.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Now what I'm saying here. Okay. Now almost done. Okay. One change that we have to do. Okay. That is the this particular test. Okay. So we don't need this one, right? So if I remove this one, okay, if I remove this one, okay, I have to get it from somewhere, right? Now this is available in this particular login test data, right? Okay, so this is not required. That is the username, and this is also not required, which I have hard coded previously, right? So hard coding is strictly not allowed in any automation. Hard coding test data is strictly not allowed. right? So always your test data should be maintained in your test data manager or test data management, right? So now in this case, assume that we are using as a test data manager this particular data provider. Okay, now I'm going to say here username and password, right? But where is that username and password will be available, right? So for that, what I will do, I'll just say I'm having two parameters. Okay, so first one is the string user name. Okay, and second parameter string
Password.
password. Password. Okay, and this username I'm going to sorry, this username I'm going to use here, and this particular password I'm going to use here. Okay. Okay, this is clear for everyone, right? So let me run one time so that you will get the idea what exactly happening here, right? So for that purpose, what I'll do, I'll just copy this particular URL. Just update here. Okay, now I'll say, so let's say run. Okay, now if you see username is added, password is added, and we are able to log in to the application successfully, right? And what about our test? Test is also pass. See, test is also pass. Okay, now if you see, we have run one test which is pass. Okay, and for that particular test case, the name of that particular test is a login test. And for this, two parameters are there. First parameter is admin, admin, and second parameter is admin123. If I go here, so admin is our username and admin123 is our password, right? So for login test, it's taking the two parameter, that is the admin and uh, admin123, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now
Yes,
if
yes.
I go to the reports, okay, so in reports as well, it's saying like, this particular login test is run one time. Okay, and for that particular time, it's taken the two parameter, one admin and admin123. Okay, now see, this is simple. What exactly we are doing? I have created one file. Name of that particular file is my TestNG data provider, where I'm maintaining the login data. I'm maintaining the login data. Right. So what I did, I just created one, added one annotation @data provider, and have given the name for that particular data provider as login data. Right. So in this particular data provider, so like for the test, this is annotation, right? So if you see test annotations, right? So in test annotation as well, we are creating one method. For example, before let's say suite is one annotation, right? In that as well, we are creating one method, right? So similarly for data provider as well, we have to create one method, right? But for this particular method, what I'm going to do, I'm going to return the multidimensional object array, multidimensional object array, right? So as I'm returning here multidimensional array in my method as well. I have to return the multidimensional object array. So that's the reason we have just created one object class, sorry, object class, sorry, object class object. Okay, so this is the object class. Object is one class. For that class, we are creating one object. Okay, as we know that it's returning the um, uh, object of bidimensional array, right? So that's the reason we have created the one object of object class, and for that we are passing this value, right? Now when test is executed, what exactly happened? Okay, So let's say in this particular test, we are using this one, right? That particular data. Okay. So let's say TestNG started, execution. So it will come here at the red test annotation, and what it will see, like, this particular test is using one data provider. Okay. So it will look for the name of the data provider. So he will get the name of the data provider is the login test, right? So then he will see, a class is also mentioned. Okay. So what is the name of the class? So let's say class name is the TestNG data provider, right? So he will look for the TestNG data provider class, and from that particular class, uh, it will take, whatever we have written, it will take here. Okay, it will take here in our test. Okay, now what exactly it will do? Okay, so I'm returning how many values from here? How many values I'm returning here?
Two.
Two values returning. So first one is the admin, and second one is the admin 123, right? So it will go here. It will follow the same sequence that we have mentioned here. Okay, so it will go here in our script. Okay, and here for your test as well, these many parameters should be there, right? So I'm returning two parameters from there. So that's the reason I'm mentioning here two parameters. If I'm returning the three parameters, then I have to mention here three parameters as well. If I'm returning four parameters for my method as well, I have to mention the four parameters. So as I'm returning the two parameters, so that I'm just mentioning here two parameters, right? So first parameter we're returning from our test data provider is the username. Okay, so it will directly come here, and for this username, it will assign the admin value, right? And for this particular password, it will assign the admin 123. Now, value of your username is admin, and value of your password is admin 123 because of this test data provider, right? So now when it comes to this particular line, we are just identifying the element, and then we are saying like send key. Okay, as we know that this particular admin is username is having username is having value admin. Okay, and then it will go for the next line. So it will enter the admin there in username text box, right? So it will go to the next box where again we are just finding the password field, and there we are sending saying like, send key. Okay, now what is our password? As we know that, password value will be the admin 123. Why? Because test data provider has sent that particular value here, right? So this particular value is sent to your password box, right? So now username is entered, password is entered, and then we are clicking here, right? And then we are just checking the am I really able to log in that particular application or not, right? So this is how we can do it, right? Now my requirement is that my test should allow me. Okay, so this is the single test case. It should allow me to use the multiple test data. That means if I'm having 10 different users, I can able to log in with the 10 different user, and my same script will run for all the 10 users. My same script should run for all the 10 users, right? So currently I'm just passing the one test data. Okay, so in that case, what we need to do, we need to pass the how many data? Two data, right? Or three data, four data, right? So this is the first data set we have sent, right? Okay, I want to send only two values, right? So I'm maintaining like this, right? Now, so we can say like, it's 2 by 2 matrix will be generated here, or 2 by 2. So you can consider this kind of value we're sending from here, 2 by 2, right? I will not mention here, but 2 by 2 value will be, right? So as we know that this is the first row value we have sent, right? Now for the second row, I'm going to say, okay, for second row.
Make one enter, sorry, next line we can write.
Sorry.
Press one enter key and we can write second row in that.
Okay. So my username is ztest, right? Okay, so this is my username ztest, right? And password is Ajay123. password is this one. Now what will happen? I'm not doing anything, but my test case will run 2 times. How many times my test will run? My test case will run 2 times. Why? Because what I'm mentioning here in my test, this particular test case needs to run how many data you have added in login, because I'm using the login, right? So that might be possibly in login I'm using added data for the 10 user. So this particular test case, as I'm using test data provided here, so this particular test case should run around 10 times. Right now I'm passing the two values. That means this particular test case should be run 2 times. Right. But as of now, we haven't added the support for this, right? Why I'm saying like this? Because if you see, when it is launching the browser, it is launching the URL, right? Then it's just maximizing it. Then entering the username, I'm entering the password, I'm clicking on login button, then I'm asserting something, right? And after that, I'm not closing anything, right? That's fine. I'm not closing anything, but even I'm not doing the logout as well. Right now, next time or next script will be started running, or for the next user script started running. So it will find the username and password for the on this particular page. All right. So we can say like, entry page is not correct here, right? So we have to make that particular kind of thing, that our script should be on entry page, right? So for that purpose, what I need to do, I need to log out this particular application. So how to do the logout? So for that, I'll just find out the XPath for this one. So XPath is your, okay. So this is the link, right? Before that, I have to click on this particular icon, right?
For logout, we have already created one method, sir.
For logout as well, we have one method, right?
Yes, sir.
So where it is? Yeah.
Uh, admin user. Admin user. Yeah, about, sir. Yeah. After
Login.
after method. This one, sir.
After
Yes.
method, yeah, this is the logout code, right? So
49.
similar kind of thing, I'll do it there as well. So I'll just copy this, and in my script, what I'll do, okay, I'll do the logout here, right? So I was trying to do same thing, all right? So what I'm saying, like, after run each and every test, what you need to do, you need to log out, all right? So that I will be on, so see here, I will be on this particular page. I will be on this particular page. Once the first time test case is run, I will be on this particular page. All right. Now consider my second test case has been started executing. All right. In second test case as well, we are just entering the username, password, and trying to log in. But we have already a login application, right? So it will search here username and password. All right. So for that reason, I need to log out. So what I'm saying, after method, and in that I'm just adding the logout method. After test, I'm adding the logout method. After test, I'm adding the logout method. After test, I'm adding the logout. Right. So what
driver
is
dot close, sir? After that, driver dot close or quit.
Close is not required. Why? Because I'm just initiating the session at this level, suit level. In suit level, you can set driver.quit, right? So for that, you have to add the another annotations, right? So you have to say after suite, right?
Yes.
And here I have to mention public close browser. Right. This is my method. Okay, and this method is doing logout. So I'm going to say driver dot quit. Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So here it will launch the browser, and here it will close the browser. Right. But what is the significance of this particular method? What exactly this method will do? Anyone knows? What is meant by after test? Sorry, after method. What is meant by after method?
It will log out that particular test
Okay.
after executing this.
Okay. So
Test it.
how many times it will execute on or
Two
when
times.
Based on
exactly
the
it will.
test, how many tests we have that? If we have
Correct.
two tests, we would execute two times. Like
Correct. Correct. So here I'm having how many tests? Only
two
one
tests.
test I'm having. But this
Yeah.
test case is going to run two times, right? So your add after method is also going to run two times. Why? Because this test case, how the I have adjusted the data provider. With that, this particular test case is going to run two times. Because of that, the after method as well is going to run the two times. Okay. So let's try to run this and we'll see what happening. Okay. So what changes we have done? We have added the now one more user ID here, right? And we are passing that to our test. So what we are expecting, our test should run two times now. Okay, so single test is going to run two times. Okay, so same test case is going to run two times with the different data. This is called as the parameterization. Okay, so say running the same test case with the different data set is called as the parameterization. Okay, so login successfully, log out.
Invalid credential.
Oh.
So should we log or quit that one or not? Means if we quit,
So quit will do after that. Okay. Why it's saying like invalid credential, that I need to check. Okay, our execution is not done yet. It's done, log out. It's still saying invalid credential. Okay, so now if I go to the, see, if I go here, so it's saying like, first test case, that is the login test, is run with the username, admin and password, admin123. Second test case is run with the test, Z test or Ajay123 like this, right? But somehow that particular test case is failed, that we are going to see why the test is failed, right? But um, my test case actually running the two times, right? So it's saying
no
like,
such
no
element.
such element, unable to locate the element specified by O. Is it? This is for which test case?
I think that's a logout.
After test, right? After
After
test, it's saying like this, right? So let me run it again. You see, we are facing the similar kind of issue. I'll say run all. Yeah, username and password actually entered, but somehow our user is not valid now, right? So that might be possible that user is deleted from Orange HRM, right? So let's try this one. Okay, our test is running correctly. Z test is there, right? Then why it's saying like invalid username and password? So let me try one thing. Let me try to log in with the same username and password. I'll say log out. Okay, so what is the username? Username is test. So I'll just update this one. Test. And what is the password? Password is the Ajay12. Okay, so it's saying like invalid for this username and password. I'm not sure why it's saying like previously it was saying like valid, right? But now it's saying like invalid. So let's go to the application. Okay, our user is there, which is available inside PIMU. That test user is there. I'll just say update. Okay, so this is the ID of this user. We go to the admin. That test is there. No, it's not available. Okay, so I'll search for my user. I'll say add. Okay, now we are able to log in with that particular user, right? Z test. All right, so let's run the script now. Okay, so first user, we are able to log in. Let's log out. And with Z test as well. See, Z test is there, right? So with Z test as well, we are able to log in. All right. So now it's saying like how many test cases we have run. So there are two test cases we have run. If you go to the log, okay, so this is our log. The log is saying like, we have run the two test cases. Two are pass, zero failure, zero skip. All right. If I go to the here, all right. So it's saying like, in demo test package. Okay. This is the class name. In that class, there are two test cases has been run. So first one is the login test with the username is this one and password is this one. And again, login test is run with the username is this one and password is this one. All right, so this particular test case is run two times. So single test case, we are running the two times. If I want to run the three times, I will add the three user. If I want to run the four times, then I will just update the test data. So how many times I'm going to add the test data, that much of time it's going to run. And this particular concept is called as the parameterization of the test. So running the single test case with the multiple test data or multiple test data set, it is called as the parameterization. Okay.
Sir, can we call this as a data-driven approach?
Data driven is also correct.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. This is also called as the data driven approach. Okay. Is it out here? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, so this particular two steps are very important. If you remember these two steps, you can able to do it. All right. So multiple things involved here. Okay. So first thing that we have to create one separate class. Okay. It's not mandatory how to create the separate class, but it's good if you're creating the separate class. Okay. So in this particular separate class, I'm going to maintain the multiple test data. Right. So tomorrow, if I required, test data for, add employee. All right. So in that case, I'm going to say data provider. Okay. And name of the data provider is, let's say, name. Let's say add user. All right. And I'm going to say my method name is public object multidimensional array. Method name is, let's say, add test or add new user. Okay, so this method should return the bidimensional array. Sorry, multidimensional array. So I will say return object of type multidimensional, and then I'm going to say what is my test data. So let's say first user, I'm going to add, let's say, name of the user, Ajay. Okay, then middle name is V, and then last name I'm going to add Paranma. Okay, so what else is required to add the new user? Nothing. All right, this much is required. All right, so this is the first parameter or first row of my array. All right, and I'll give a sample. But new is missing.
New is missing.
Okay, so this is how I can do it. All right. So tomorrow, if I feel like, I want to add one more user, so I'm just going to say, okay, so let's say name of, I'm going to add the new value here. Okay, so name of the user is, so let's say, uh, okay, middle name is, let's say, testing. Last name is, let's say, QA. Okay, so this particular user is going to add. All right, so this is the second data, right? But see, if I'm adding like this one, right, I have to manage my method as well, right? So let's say I'm creating one use method that for the add user. So let's say in same class, right? So for example here, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write the method here. So let's say here, okay, so I'll say this is my test, or at the rate test, at the rate test. Okay, so for this particular test, I need a data provider. So I'm going to say data provider. I'm going to give the name of the data provider. What is the name of the data provider? In this case, name of the data provider is add user. So I'm going to add this add user here. Second thing I need, that is the class. Right. Class. Data provider class. So what is the class? Class name is the TestNG data provider dot class. Okay, and that's it, right? So this is the one important step. All right, and what is the name of my test? So for example, name of the test is, let's say, because I'm going to write the actual test here, right? For the adding user, right? So I'm going to say public void add user. Now, this particular method needs how many parameters?
Three.
Three parameters required. Why? Because see, in test data itself, we are having three parameters, right? So here as well, to catch all these three parameters, we need the three parameters. So first one is the my, so let's say string. So let's say first
First
name.
name.
Okay. Then string
Middle.
and
Middle.
name. Okay. And then
Last name.
string l name. Right. And then wherever you need to, you have to write the code like, system driver dot find element first name, and then you're going to pass this first name for the send key. For the again send key, you're going to pass the middle name and then L name, right? So it will work like this. Okay. This is clear for everyone. This is how we have to use the data provider.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is easy. Can you apply in your framework as well? Whatever the script you are writing currently, right? Can you apply there as well this particular thing? Because this is important and this is required.
Okay, we will try.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, just include it in your framework. Yes. Someone is talking about Sanjay. Sanjay is there? No. Sanjay is not there. Alright. So maybe what we'll do, we have one more topic to cover in today's session. That is the how to pass the data through your TestNG.xml. So now see, same thing we can do with the help of TestNG.xml as well. Okay. So how to do it with the help of TestNG.xml? Right. So I'm going to say parameterization with the help of TestNG.xml. Okay. So with the help of TestNG.xml as well, we can pass the parameter. Okay. So for that, again, you have to follow the two steps. Okay. So first step that you have to do is you have to in TestNG.xml, you have to use this particular thing, parameter, or we can say the parameter tag. Okay. So this is the parameter tag, and this particular parameter tag is available inside the suite. Okay. Or just after the suite. Okay. You can use the parameter. Okay. And in this parameter, you can provide the two attributes. So first attribute is your name, and second attribute is your value. So that means if I want to pass the username, then I'm going to say username and what is actual username. Then for the password, I'm going to add again one more parameter, and I'm going to say password, and then I'm going to add the password. Okay. So this is the step number one, that you have to add the parameter or add the parameter tag in your testng.xml. And second thing, that you have to um, add that see, I'm adding it into the testng.xml, right? So now I have to tell my test as well, right? So I'm going to use some parameter, or you have to use those parameter, right? So for that reason, so you have to use the @test, and just after the @test annotation, you have to use the @parameter annotations. Okay, so after @test, you have to use the @parameters as well. And there you have to use these two parameters, username and password. Okay. And then again, you have to take the it is in method as well. It is in method, method parameter as well. You have to take it. Okay. So additionally, what we are doing, we are using one more annotations. Okay. And for method, this is similar that previously we are using with the data provider, test data provider. Right. So you have to use the parameters as well, this much of parameters. Right. So let's do it in our script as well. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll just go to our Excel. Okay. So what basically I will do. Okay. So maybe this particular test you will require to refer later. Okay, so I'll not update in this particular script itself. Instead of that, I'll make the copy and I'll say what I can give the name parameters, and I'll mention here XML. Okay, through the XML we are doing it. So that's the reason I'm saying demo parameters XML. Right. So I have just cloned this particular class. Okay. Now just, I mean, few minutes ago, I just added this method. As of now, I don't need it. I'll just remove it. Otherwise it will unnecessary. It will show in execution and you guys will confuse, right? So let's target on login method itself. Okay. Now we have login method and here I want to use the parameters, right? So let's try first of all with the single um, username and password, and then we'll start try for the multiple one, right? So if I go here and if I say in, see, this is my suit, right? So I said like, in suit level, I have to use the parameter. So I will say parameter. Okay, so for parameter, compulsory you have to pass this two value, right? So I'll say user name. Okay, and what is the username? That is the admin. Username is admin. Okay, then again I have to use one more parameter. Okay, so I'll say parameter. What is the parameter?
Name is equal to password.
Okay,
Password.
so name is equal to password. And what is the value of password?
Admin.
Admin 123.
123. So this is my password. Right, so I'll just save it. Okay, so now this is done, right? So first step is we already done. All right. So next step that we have to consume it in your test as well, right? So how to consume it in your test? So for that, I have already used the this particular. Now this is not required for me, right? So I'll just remove it. All right. So I have to use one more annotations. What is the name of that annotations? At the
At
rate?
the rate parameter.
Yeah, parameter. Okay, so make sure you have to use that parameter from the TestNG itself. Okay, don't use this particular parameter. J commander. Okay.
Okay.
So below as well, there is one more parameter. So while adding the parameter annotations, just check that it is from the TestNG or not. Right. So now this is from TestNG, and from parameter, what we need to do? You have to pass the parameters, right? So first parameter.
Username.
So first parameter, I have to pass the username, right? So I'm going to say, I'll go to the testng.xml. Okay, so what are the username I have mentioned here? Same username or similar type I have to mention it. Okay, this name I have to copy it and I have to add it here. Okay, again for the password. Right, so I'll go to the testng.xml. This is the password name. All right, so I'll use the same password here. Not here. Here in the buttons. Right, and see here we already passing the two parameters, username and password. Okay, and we are passing that particular password here and here. Right, so basically what it will do, parameters will read the parameters from what? TestNG.xml. Okay, so first parameter it will read the username, second parameter it will read the password, and what are the value he will give? He will get the first value, that is username. It will assign to this username, and he will get the password value. It will assign the password value here. Okay, so let's try to run whether we are able to log in or not. Okay, test fail. Okay, what is the reason? The username is required at test on method login test, but it has been not marked. Okay, so maybe this is the issue with the typo, right? So same how username I have given here, that username I have to mention. So this is similar, right? Okay, so I'll mention it here. Password, I'll mention it here. Okay. So at the rate login test on method login test, it's saying like, user parameter username is required by the address test on the method login, but it has not been marked as the optional or default. Okay. Again, I'm getting the similar kind of error, right? The parameter username is required by the test by the test method on the login test, but it has been marked as optional or default. Okay, so what actually things were going wrong here? Right, so we are seeing at the rate parameters. For the parameters, you are passing the parameter 1, parameter 2, and public static void movement. Okay, so everything is correct, I believe. Let me check it is working for the password. Okay, see. Oh, let me run it from here. Okay, so for that, what I need to say in package, each class we have. What is the class name? This is the class name, right? So I'll just mention it in our testng.xml. But I'll just copy the class name and I'll update it here. Okay, so that means I want to run the test from this particular class. So username is there, password is there, right? So everything is there. So let's run it from here. So that means, see, you are passing the parameter in testng.xml. So you have to run from the testng.xml. Okay, so it's now successful and one test case is passed as well, right? So if let me go to the test again and let me run it. Let me say run all. It's not working from here, right? So as we are passing the parameter from the testng.xml, you have to run it from the testng.xml itself. All right, so I'll say run it from the testng.xml. Now, if you see it, admin, it's enter, and we are able to log into the application, and our test is passed as well. All right. So what basically you need to do, you have to add the parameter in testng.xml. Okay. Once it is done, this is the step number one. Step number two, you have to go to the test, or you have to go to your test case. Okay. In that test case, just after the test annotation, you have to add one more annotation, that is the parameter. Parameter you have to add. Okay. So once this is done, make sure that your method is also having similar parameter. All right. So once this is done, everything is done. You can take the parameters from the testng.xml as well. All right. So this is clear how to get the parameters from the testng.xml. Or anyone is having an issue here?
Ajay sir, in if we want to again run with the different set of data, then we have to update our XML.
All right. So, but here I'm passing the data in which level?
Suite level.
Suit level. Suit level, right? So I don't know. I mean, suit level, if I add the again duplicate parameter, it will work or not. So this approach, I think it will not work. Instead of that, what we need to do? Okay, so for example, this is the suit level, right? Suit level parameter we have added, right? So just let me copy same parameter here and let me say,
Copy from data provider class, different set of data.
yeah. No, it will work from here as well. I'll tell you how to do it. Let me try the first approach. Okay.
Yes.
So let me add it here. I think it will not work. Okay. Nice. Okay. Second approach we'll try. All right. Let me run it from here. Directly log in with the Z test, right? So only one test case run. That is the data that we have added at the last. So for this particular data, it's not run the automation, right? Okay, so now I want to run the test case with the multiple test data set, right? So for that purpose, it will not help you adding the data at this level, right? So instead of this, what I'll do, I'll just cut this one and I will go to my test level. At the test level, I'll add this particular data. So test level, I'm adding the same data. You can add it on suit level if it is common for the suit. Okay, if it is specific to your test, then you can add it into your test. All right. So now this is my test one. Okay, so I'm saying, like, run the test from this particular class with this data. Okay, but if I want to run it again, all right, so what I'll do, I'll just copy this particular test tag. I'll just paste it down, right? And now this time I'm going to use these two parameters, next two parameters. Right. So I'm going to say here, now this time I want to use this parameter. Okay, so here I'm adding the parameter at the test level. Okay, so what basically we are doing here? Okay, so I'm saying, like, at test level, I'm having two parameters. So first one is the username and password. Um, in that, this particular, I'm running for this particular class. Okay, so what class I have included? The name is that particular class is the demo parameter. In that, only one class is there, right? If you want to restrict for the method, you can restrict it for the method as well. Okay, but it is fine. In that particular class, there is only one test, right? Uh, now test is closed. I'm opening again one more test. Okay, in that test as well, I'm having different parameter now. and I want to run that particular for this particular test case. So let me run this particular XML and we'll see we are able to run it or not.
Means, sir, we have created two tests here in XML.
Cannot have the same name. Oh. Okay, so I'll say this is my
Test one and test two.
test one, and this is my test two. Let me run it. Okay, so Z test, it's run first. Okay. Okay, what happened here now? It's run for only one. So test level parameter we have added. So this is my test one. This is my test two. In both the test, I'm having data here. Okay, so what is the failure reason? So first of all, we'll go here and we'll see. Okay, so it's saying like, first test case we have run for the admin. That is correct. But it's saying like, null pointer exception. This dot driver is null. This dot driver is null. Okay, why this dot driver is null? Let me run it again. Okay, again the same error we are getting here. Okay, but actually if you see, it's running this particular test case two times. So this is the login test running first time with the admin and this one. And second test case is running with the Z test, right? So we have to check that why we are getting this particular error. Okay, so for this, what I'll do, I'll go to the test. Okay, here I will say this is first of all static. Static. By making this static, is it solving my problem or not? Okay, now both the test cases are right. So now you guys have to tell me why it's working with the static and why it's not working with the normal instance variable. What do you think? Why?
Static will run at the class level. That's
So this is variable, right? So for variable, we have seen like, if it is static, then if the variable is static, then basically, uh, you can share that particular variable, right? So only one time it will copy will be created and it will share among the different object, right? So in our case, it might be possible like, for this particular test suite, it is running with the first data set or first object. And for this, it's creating the new object and it's trying with the new object because we are saying like, initiate the thread one again, right? So it might be possible that first thread, it is running the first test case and the second thread is running the second test case, right? So it might be happen sometimes, this particular variable is not initialized at that particular time. So what I'm saying, like, if it is initialized first time, okay, I'm making it static. That means if any object initialize that particular variable, so this particular value should be applicable for all objects. So other object as well getting the same instance value. All right. So for driver, if some cases, if you are getting the error, that is the null pointer exception for the driver. So make sure that your driver variable is the static. Okay.
yeah.
Sir, this point is not clear, sir. Why static?
Okay, so
How
what
like
is meant by static variable?
the static variable will create one copy in memory without creating object.
Right. So now in previous case, what happened? My object, sorry, my variable is the instance variable, right? So if I'm creating the first object and that particular object, because see, we are saying like it's on suit level, right? So suit level, we have added our code. If you see, it's in your suit level, right? So it will initialize only once, right? In within the suit, right? Now, what will happen? What might be possible that with the help of this particular code, we are initializing the value of this particular variable, right? So might be for the driver, we're getting the value x, y, z. Okay, so this particular value we are getting, but assume that this is not static, right? So initially we got the xyz value, right? So first test is started. Okay, so first test is started and it's run successfully, or it's run with this particular thing, right? But when next test is started, it might be running with the different instance. Different instance means with the different object. So first test case is running with the first object and second test case is running with the second object, right? Because we have different test mentioned in our testng.xml file, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now in second instance, it might be possible this particular code is running only once. For the second instance, it's not running again, right? But when that particular object is referring to the driver, now this is the instance variable, right? So for instance variable, for each and every object, it will initialize the value again, right? So what will happen? So let's say this is our heap, right? So whenever first object is created for the first execution, right? So it will say driver is equal to xyz. Driver is equal to xyz. Okay. Now let's consider second object is created or execution is running with on the second object, right? So now again it will look for the driver. Okay, but as we know, we are initializing driver here. That means when first object got the value, it was
Yes.
xyz. Okay, but now when I'm running with the different object, so now let's say the object is the object 2, right? So it will
Yes.
check for this particular value. This particular value is again for that particular object initialize, right? So now whom to initialize this one? Because we are saying like, like this, we are not initializing value, right? So
Yeah.
what will be the value here?
ABC driver equal to ABC.
No, ABC is for
Null.
this one, right? So value will be the null here for this particular object 2. Okay, so for our object 2, the value is null. This is my, so let's say this is my object 1, and let's say this is my object 2, right? So both the object is getting the, first object, the driver is initialized. That's the reason it's getting the value. Why driver is initialized for the first object only? Because before suit,
Before so
we are running only once, right? So
once.
first object, it's initialized, right? Now it's starting with the second object. For the second object, driver is not initialized, right? So
Mm.
what he will get the value? Null value he will get, right?
Yes.
On the other hand, if I'm making it static here, all right. So initially, for example, first execution is started with the first object. So driver value may be initialized to the XYZ, right? So your driver will be the driver value will be the
XYZ.
equal to XYZ, right? So as this is the static, right? So it's not dependent on object, right? So whether object one is referring, he's going to XYZ. Whether object two is referring, it is going to refer the XYZ. So always he is going to get the object value here. Sorry, driver value here. So he'll not get the null pointer exception. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now clear, sir. Before suit we have executed. That's why we are writing this test in same test suite.
Correct. Okay. So I think that's it for today's session. Okay. If you are having any doubt, you can ask.
Ajay sir, when we
Mhm,
are writing test in test case, TestNG,
mhm.
then at the rate test annotation, it will working fine. And at the rate test and the braces, if we write and nothing, then also it is working in the TestNG. So there
Right.
is no such difference between
Correct.
them.
Correct. 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 Because see, anyways, for this particular, we are going to have different parameters for the at the rate test, right? So it's not mattering, like, if you are having at the rate and then you are having, let's say, bracket open, bracket close, right? So like this you are saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Means
so
we can provide null value in that, or either
it's
we
not
did.
it's not null, it's empty. You're not passing any parameter. If you want, you can pass parameter for the at the rate test. If you don't want to pass the parameter for the at the rate test, don't pass it. Okay, but having bracket, it will not cause any issue. Having empty brackets, it will not cause any issue.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Uh, Fine, sir. And
So,
sir, one more doubt, if I can share the screen with you, if
okay.
possible.
Yeah.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, yes, sir.
My screen is visible.
Yes, yes, it is.
Uh, Actually, first question was that, sir, when I'm writing this one, na, this test case. Sorry, uh, this one. So view method is coming after that, this one, because uh,
Okay,
I'm
show me
giving
your
some
code.
parameter here, parameter in that class. So
Okay,
due to this,
show me your code.
this one, sir, I removed it. After that, it is giving like that, sir.
Okay, okay. So run it now.
View test case is coming, but I have updated something here, sir.
Mhm.
Actually, uh, this is a test case, and depends on add user, and this is not depending. So and this delete user is
Independent.
depends on add user, suppose.
Okay, where is your add user?
This one, sir. Add user is here,
Mhm.
and I
For
have
add user, there are two dependent test cases, right? The first one is the edit, and second one is the delete.
delete. So if
Right.
I add some description here
Mhm.
and view user, sorry,
We have to write description at test level.
test. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yes.
So let me stop the recording so that it will not go.
Okay. And if I